conditioning, or a better radio setup in there. I don't know.
Bose sound system. There you go.
Okay, here's what it is. Kevin Fryer's got the AM/FM. Chris Collins only has the AM. All right, here we go. Our cars are now lined up as they are coming around turn 10. And our flagman is watching to make sure there's no funny business going on. He's holding the flag. And we got a late green flag, but they are off and running.
Yep.
And it looks like the 18 of Owen Sheffer pulls out just by a nose in front of Brent Simonson going down to 1.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. It is Sheffer by about a quarter of a car length. And both those front cars have SM5 cars with a much more power sitting right behind them to push them along as they go behind the trees. It was Owen Sheffer and Brent Simonson still side by side, and as they come out, I see the darker car with the white splitter. That is Brent Simonson. He has got a 2-car length lead over Owen Sheffer. It's at another 5 car lengths back to the number 98 of Kevin Fryer. We have Chris Collins, who's coming out of the gas, then Lev Uretsky. Steve Hunt is all the way back in 6th place as they head down the bottom half of the course. We actually saw this yesterday. Brent Simonson gets great starts here at Summit Point, and you'd think that he's got more straight line speed than Owen Sheffer, but Owen Sheffer, I think we talked about this yesterday, he has got a prototype ECU and control system from Electromotive in his car. He's got absolutely the best tuner, as far as I know, on the East Coast. Peter Florence tuning his Miata, and he's making, from what I understand, somewhere between 5 and 10 horsepower more than Brent Simonson, and that in the straight line is definitely worth it.
All right, and here comes your leaders now out of turn 10. It looks like that is Brent Simonson in the lead with Owen Sheffer right on his tail drafting as they head down the front stretch. Chris Collins is fourth now. He fell back as Fryer regained third on him, and they all go down into 1.
All right, Mike, and as they head down into turn 1, Owen Sheffer using that horsepower and using the draft. He's about a half a car up on Brent Simonson, and as they turn in at turn number 1, Owen Sheffer is definitely the first car to the apex, and I think as they come out from behind the turn, we are going to see that Owen Sheffer is your new leader. Brent Simonson second. They have about a 10-car length lead over the first non-ITA car. That is the T4 car of Kevin Fryer. About another 4-car lengths back to Chris Collins, then Lev Uretsky in his SM5 car. John Martin in his ITA Acura Integra. He's running 6th overall. He's actually 3rd in ITA. The challenge for him is going to be a way to find his way around those 3 SM5 cars that have much more horsepower than he does. And I hate to say it, with Owen Sheffer getting around Brent Simonson on lap number 2, that may be all she wrote for Brent Simonson, because he just does not have the horsepower to get around Owen Sheffer.
Well, we've always said you never count your chickens before they're hatched, and it ain't over till the fat lady sings. So you never know. This is an IT race,
All right. Well, Owen Sheffer got around Brent Simonson. He is your new leader. Got about a car length and a half separation. Go back about 15 car lengths now to get to Kevin Fryer. Another couple back to Chris Collins, and then Lev Uretsky. Your top 5 going to 1.
All right, as they go down in the 1, it is taking almost the entire straightaway for Brent Simonson to get to Owen Sheffer. Now, this was interesting going into 1. Sheffer pulled wide to really open up the arc into turn number 1, while Brent Simonson went straight, and it looked like Owen Sheffer almost went right across the nose of Brent Simonson. But as they come out of 2 and now come through turn 3, Brent Simonson has fallen about 3 car lengths behind Owen Sheffer just in that short little area of the track. He's able to get back up to Sheffer under the draft, but it's taken him the whole straightaway, 3/4 of a mile to do it, Mike.
Well, that's just the difference in those cars and the speed. And, we've seen Simonson do some stuff where he starts out early in the race, a lot of times up in the front, then kind of cools off a little bit. But, that's all with experience. And the more experience you get, the more you're going to be consistent and actually stay up at the front when you're there.
Yep, absolutely. And, and again, really for John Martin to get back up to Brent Simonson, he's going to have to work real hard. He's got 3 real fast MX-5s to get around.
All right, here come your leaders. Owen Sheffer now has about a 3-car length lead over Simonson, and they are slowly pulling away from Kevin Fryer. Now it's 0.6 of a second difference between Sheffer and Simonson. Go back another 3.8 till you hit third place. Kevin Fryer. Chris Collins is catching up to Fryer.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's now only about 2 car lengths back from Kevin Fryer. But again, I can't tell you what the heck the difference is between those 2 cars, even though they're in different classes. Coming out of turn number 2, heading towards turn number 3, Simonson is about 2 car lengths back from Owen Sheffer, carrying about the same amount of speed through the corners here. Matter of fact, actually, Simonson carrying more speed through turn 3, and I think Simonson is making up a lot of ground on the bottom half of the course, but where your car really needs legs, like coming up the hill out of turn 8 towards turn 10 and here on the front straight, that's where Owen Sheffer where that extra horsepower is definitely going to be an advantage for him.
All right, that last lap, Greg, John Maslin just got around John Garukas to take over 15th.
Yeah, and that's a good battle, and I think we're going to see. We might even want to spend a little time looking at that Spec Hard 7 race. Dave 8 has already opened up almost a 10-second gap between he and Ken Siegel, who's running second. But Siegel, Seelig, and Maslin, and also Jarukas are running pretty close together.
Well, right now in that SRX 7 race, Ben Seelig is about almost 2 seconds behind Ken Siegel. Maslin's back another 4.7 seconds behind Seelig.
All right, and now our overall leaders, as they head down into turn 1, it is Owen Sheffer and Brent Simonson in the 2 ITA Miatas, I believe both 1.8 liter Miatas, and it looks like Simonson's pulled right back up onto the bumper of Owen Sheffer, and as they come out of 2, he is just mere feet off the rear bumper. He is definitely carrying more speed through the corners here. He's got only about a half a car length back from Owen Sheffer's ahead in the bottom half of the course, but like you said, Mike, they're really opening a gap over these what should be much faster cars, these MX-5 cars that are running in T3, T4, and SM5. The odd thing is that the T3 and T4 cars have fairly stock suspensions underneath them, so while they've got horsepower, they're probably not going to run as fast as the ITA cars, but Lev Uretsky in that SM5 car, that has got a race suspension underneath it and a lot more horsepower. Oh, and I might also add that all 3 of those MX-5 cars have ABS brakes that huge that the ITA cars are not allowed to run ABS, and so I mean they can push real deep into a corner, much deeper than the regular Miatas can.
All right, here comes your leaders, Sheffer and Simonson. Last time around, Simonson actually cut off 0.3 of a second on the lap time, and he's only about a car and a half in arrears of Sheffer as they hit 1.
Yep, and as they come down into the braking zone at the 500-foot mark, it's about a car length. At the 50-foot mark, Simonson is right back on his tail. So Simonson, I think we can tell, is using those brakes a little bit harder than Sheffer is. He's definitely working the car harder. We'll have to see if he's still got the tires at the end of the race. One of the advantages of these Miatas is they are as close to perfectly balanced as you can get. They don't wear the consumables. They don't wear the tires like a CRX does, for that matter.
All right, well, you're talking about how equal they are. The last times through, Sheffer ran a 127.131, Simonson a 127.112. So he only picked up 2/100ths of a second that time, but he is outrunning Sheffer.
All right, now
your top 4 drivers too here, Greg. All of them now, second lap in a row, they've run their fastest lap times. That T4 and T3 car of Fryer and Collins, they're both running right around 128.1s, 128.0s. So they are running still a little bit slower than Sheffer and Simonson at the front.
Yeah, and I think at this point, unless, and I think it would be a heck of a long, hard battle that Simonson and Sheffer would have to put in for those MX-5 cars, the T3, T4, and SM5 cars to get up to the front. I mean, we're looking now, it's about half a straightaway back to Kevin Fryer from Simonson, but I think the one thing we want to look at, and looking here, John Martin, who's running 3rd in ITA, unfortunately, I mean, he's pushing that Integra as much as he can, but John comes out now once, maybe twice a year, and he just doesn't have the pace that those Miatas have, and I think a lot of it is he's just he's shaking off a year's worth of rust.
That makes a whole lot of difference, Greg. If you're not in the groove, You just or not in practice. You don't have that muscle memory, and then you have to relearn it every lap.
Yeah, I mean, John's been running ITA here at Summit Point with the MARRS series for years and years. But the last couple of years, and I think with a lot of us, with the economy and everything else, sometimes life gets in the way of racing a little bit. He comes out once or twice a year to knock the rust off and get a little excitement in for the year. And as opposed to Owen Sheffer or Brent, who are racing year round, he's got to get that muscle memory back.
And speeds again now. Sheffer and Simonson, Fryer and Collins all ran their fastest lap times, with Fryer and Collins getting into the 127 range, and Sheffer and Simonson now breaking the 126 range. And here come the leaders around turn 10. Again, it looks like Simonson's closing in a little bit, about 3 car lengths behind Sheffer as they hit the start-finish line. And he knocked off almost just a 1/10 of a second there, but still he ran a little faster than first place Sheffer.
Yeah, and he's picking that gap back up again every time he goes into turn 1 because he's pushing the car harder. But it's clear, Summit Point is a very technical track, but to some extent with this long front straightaway here, with our uphill run from 8 to 10, it's to some extent a power track also. And as long as Owen Sheffer, with that additional horsepower, can stay ahead of Brent Simonson and not let Simonson slow him down or bring him off the cam, I really think that this is a race for Owen Sheffer to really keep command of.
Well, if he keeps running lap times like this and stays in that position, basically it's Sheffer's race to lose, not so much.
Whoa, look at this. Sideways around 10. This blue car here, what number is that?
That's going to be one of our Mazda RX-7s. And
certainly is.
That is the 22 car.
22. He was Ben Seelig. Nasty way to come around 10.
Yeah, and Ben Seelig, he was running third in Spec RX-7 in front of John Maslin. Luckily, he had about a 4-second gap back to Maslin. He's going to be able to hold on to that position, stay in third place.
All right, here's the leaders again. It's Sheffer and Simonson coming down to the start-finish line, and it was 0.5 of a second. It's still 0.5 of a second.
All right, but now as they go down into turn number 1, they have another Spec RX-7 right ahead of them as they head down into the braking zone of 1. Owen Sheffer, he gives up a little bit more to Brent Simonson, and as they come through turn number 2, will that Spec Racer Ford cause an issue? Yes, it actually does. Sheffer has gotten around him. Simonson, at the last moment, gets around the Spec RX-7 of John Jarukas and manages to go on, but I think he lost about 2 car lengths in that little run from second to third, Mike.
Well, I'll tell you how close these guys are running in the front. That last lap, Simonson ran faster than Sheffer by 3/1000ths of a second, which means he picked up about, 4 inches? If that.
Yeah, that would be, and remember that's it's probably about a foot or so, over a 2-mile course, and that's not much, and the issue is that he's about a car length back when he comes out of turn 10, so that foot isn't enough to get him up to attempt to pass down to turn number 1, unless he wants to make a very late, very low percentage move. And Brent Simonson and Owen have been racing here long enough. I think they both know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, Sheffer's pulling out now. It's about a 4 car length, maybe 5 car length lead over Simonson as they cross the start-finish line, finishing lap 9, 11 to go. Which means it's time for our first call to the grid for race group 8, and that is Spec Racer Ford, Spec Racer 4-3. Your first call to the grid, please. Alrighty then. And that trumpet sound effect was provided to you by the one, the only Bob Steele. And he did it with the microphone turned all the way off.
All the way off. All right, Mike, and as they head down through turn 3 into the bottom half of the course, Owen Sheffer has opened up probably the biggest lead that he has had all race. It's now about 5 car lengths over Brent Simonson. So Brent Simonson is only picking up a foot over a 2-mile course. I don't think we have enough laps in this race or enough days in the week for Brent Simonson to pull that back. And the one thing that we've seen other than, and I'll bring it up at MARRS 6, Owen Sheffer had a mechanical issue on the very last lap of a race that he was leading, where he lost the hub. You can't really plan for that, but otherwise, Owen Sheffer.
Yeah, I was going to say, Beth Burkhardt pretty much went from the back of the pack to the front of front to the back to the front, and then just one little bobble, and that ended her day.
Yeah.
Now here comes the leaders, Sheffer and Simonson. They've got a slower car, that 22 car, in front of them, Ben Seelig, but looks like they're going to get around him and make waste with him and continue racing, go to one.
Yeah, they sure do. So the point I was trying to make is I didn't think Owen Sheffer, unless there's a mechanical issue, he is probably one of the most consistent drivers I know in ITA and in all of the MARRS series. But there are things like traffic, which they just saw, that turned that 5-car length gap back down to a half-car length gap. And as they come through turn number 3 now, Owen Sheffer only has about a car length gap back to Brent Simonson. And so we go through the game once again. Simonson, more pace through the corners. Sheffer, more pace on the straightaways here at Summit Point, and we're back to the 1-car length gap.
Well, again, that speed differential, the timing differential, was 0.7 of a second, and Simonson knocked it down to about 0.3. So he slowly reels him in, and then Sheffer just kind of, I don't know whether he's bird dogging him and just teased him a little bit, like, yeah, catch up, and then pull away a little bit. Who knows?
Only the shadow.
Well, you're back. I thought it was Bob over there again. You guys got to quit playing musical chairs, man.
Nah, it keeps you on your toes, Mike.
Yeah. Okay, here come your leaders, and it looks like Sheffer's kind of pulled away a little bit again from Simonson. About a 5-car length lead. Let's see, timing-wise, what's the difference? Went from 3/10 back up to 7/10.
Yeah, but look at this, Mike, as they go down into turn number 1. They are coming up on actually it's a front-running SRF car of Dave Aid, and they are also coming up on a back marker ITA car, the number 70 of Chris Ettridge in his Mazda Miata, and that is definitely going to slow things up as they're going side by side. Oh, look at this. Owen Sheffer just threads the needle between Aid and Ettridge, and that leaves Brent Simonson behind both the Spec RX-7 and that back marker Miata. Owen Sheffer now has not only a 10-car length lead, but he's got 2 cars between he and Brent Simonson going in the bottom half of the course.
And sometimes timing is everything.
Everything.
The way it looks right now, Owen Sheffer is your leader, followed by Brent Simonson in 2nd, Kevin Fryer 3rd, Christopher Collins 4th, Levi Retsky is in 5th, John Martin 6th, Steve Hunt 7th, Blake Byers 8th, Dave Aid 9th, Chuck Edmondson rounds out your top 10.
And as they come through, as some of our other drivers come through now, turn 3, John Martin, as we mentioned before, he's definitely knocking the rust off. He's running a very good race. The car doesn't look nearly as settled coming through turn 3 as some of the Miatas do, but I think that's kind of common to have in a front-wheel drive car versus that very, very balanced Miata.
All right, here we go. Our leaders, Sheffer, coming down the front stretch. Simonson finally got around those 2 other cars and is back behind Sheffer, but 2.9 seconds in arrears with 8 laps to go.
And to give you an idea of what the distance is there, as Sheffer is turning in for turn number 1, Brent Simonson was getting to the 500-foot brake marker, so he is about 500 feet more than an entire football field behind right now. That's assuming football field 100 times 300 feet, right?
Yes, very
Hey,
good.
got it. So yeah, to almost 2 football fields.
Almost. All right, next time our leaders go by, there will be 7 to go, which means second call for race group 8. Spec Racer Ford, Spec Racer Ford 3. Start making your way to the grid, please. All right, this race seems to have settled out now pretty well. Everybody's just moving. Blake Byers and Steve Hunt are probably the closest race on the track, as Byers is about half a second behind Hunt. That's the battle for 7th and 8th place. Way back, Chris Ettridge and Ken Siegel. Another one that's only half a second differential there. Those are probably the closest races on the track right now. And here comes our leader, Owen Sheffer, who put lap number 13 in the books, followed by Brett Simonson. Let's see if Simonson could pick up any time. Nope, he loses more time. He's now 4.5 seconds behind our leader.
All right, and as they head down into turn number 1 and actually come out from behind the trees in the turn number 2, it is again Owen Sheffer with a pretty considerable gap. That gap right now is almost 4.5 seconds. So that just that one lap of having 2 cars in that short shoot really impacted Brent Simonson's race to the front. And we've got a lot of gravel off on the outside of turn number 1, but no yellow flags. That tells me everybody made it through safely. Let's see if we can find out which car that was. I am going to put my money, did not see it, you didn't hear it from me, but it was probably Dave 8, who was our Spec RX-7 leader in the number 4 car. Who probably that's
wait.
Siegel. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I heard it from you.
You did hear it from me.
Did hear it from you.
Ken Siegel dropping a wheel on the outside of turn number 1, but it looks like he's okay.
All right, I got a question for you here, Bob.
Yep.
Now, we've called race group 8, Spec Racer 4, Spec Racer 4-3 to the grid twice.
Yep.
What happens if they hold a race and nobody shows up?
With Spec Racer Fords, they'll race around the paddock.
I'll get their trophy.
All right, here comes Owen Sheffer. Looks like he is increasing his lead over Brent Simonson now. I guess he's tired of the messing around and just wants to get this race over with. It's up to 5.2 seconds on the lead as Sheffer gains another 0.7 of a second. I mean, it's in the 90s out there, and I'm sure those guys are just hotter than you know what in those cars.
No doubt.
Well, the guys that have open cars, a lot cooler, even in direct sunlight like this, than the guys that have tin tops. So you can bet your butt those guys are a little cooler.
Yeah, without a doubt. Hey guys, I'm getting word that not only was it Ken Siegel, the number 4 Spec RX-7 that went off in turn 1, it was also the number 70 white ITA Miata of Chris Ettridge. Apparently, those 2 cars had come together at turn number 1. Exactly. Oops. And we may hear a little bit more about that later, but that's what happened down there to cause the big cloud of dust through the sky.
Is that like dust in the wind?
Yes.
I see.
We are all just... I think I saw that on a Bill and Ted's movie.
All right, here comes our leader now out of 10, Owen Sheffer. Takes it all the way out to the gravel trap and back in. It's pit out as second place Brett Simonson comes around 10 and down the front stretch. And let's see if Simonson can pick up any time. Nope, we lost 0.2 of a second. It's 5.4 seconds in holding is Owen Sheffer's lead.
Yeah, I think Simonson, and Bob, you mentioned it also very early that, Simonson, very strong starts, always seems to jump out either into the lead or near the lead at the front, and not, he doesn't get...
stays consistent.
Yeah, he stays consistent, but the pace definitely drops off.
Yeah.
It may be more the car, could be temperatures rising, tires going away a little bit on what is already a greasy track, he definitely seems to lose a little pace towards the end, where Owen Sheffer, for the most part, actually seems to get stronger as the race goes on.
It might be a difference in concentration. It might be a difference of heat in the cockpit. There's a lot of ifs here.
Yeah,
so it could be almost anything.
I mean, I know it's hot up here. I know LG does such a wonderful job with their air conditioning systems. I can only imagine what it's like in the race cars right now.
Well, it's comfortable here.
It's probably cooler in the race car than it is in here.
I wouldn't be surprised. All right, it looks like the number 70 ITA Miata of Ettridge has gone back to the paddock, and so his day is done, gentlemen.
Well, we have fun up here in the Bill Scott Memorial Climate Control Tower. Climate today, though, is better than the Sahara because now, we're like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, people, when we say it's climate controlled, think that it's the most comfortable thing going. Just so happens somebody controls it at about 85 to 90 degrees.
Yeah, I think we're well over 100 today, guys.
Well, gentlemen, that's why I said the climate is Saudi Arabia because, that is a climate. It's just not air conditioned.
We're all in here sweating like OJ going to court.
Hey, bring it up to date, man. It's now Hernandez.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Sweating like Hernandez going to court.
Bad football pun, but whatever.
Yeah.
Laps winding down. We have 4 to go, so I'm going to make a third call. Group 8, Spec Racer Ford, Spec Racer Ford 3, please come to the grid. We've got one car is going to be out there for a race.
And it's a Spec Racer Ford, so I could still conceivably get the SRF3 trophy.
You could podium still.
That's right.
Greg will just run down there, beat him up, steal a trophy, and run into the woods.
Nice.
Well, you could. I didn't say you were going to.
It's West Virginia. I'm not going in the woods.
Oh, good point.
As we say, if you hear banjos, paddle faster.
All right, here comes Owen Schaffer down the front stretch. It's the start-finish line. We've got 3 to go. And, well, farther back, Brett Simonson, as he's really starting to fall off now. He's 6.4 seconds back, with a slower car in between them.
Yeah, he's losing about a second a lap now, and I think he's just kind of resigned. He's just kind of resigned to just
Finish
getting the car to the finish. But the one thing is, we look at that ITB race earlier today. And if you remember, when Beth Burkhardt made that amazing run from the back of the pack to take the lead, and she ran down leader Jeff Janoska more or less like he was standing still.
Yep.
When she got around him, Janoska did not go away, and he was there, and he was ready, and he was waiting, and you have to fight until, the way I look at it is you race until the checkered flag flies, because you never know what might happen in front of you.
That's a very good philosophy and very true, my friend.
And I'm not saying that Brett Simonson's conceded the win to Owen Scheffer, but there could be something. Scheffer could run out of gas at turn 10 and come coasting down the front straight, and it could be a difference of 0.2 of a second in a lap that gives Simonson the win.
Well, it also could be that, Scheffer's got a big enough lead. He can just say, okay, now I don't have to worry. He's not right on my tail anymore.
He's not doing that, though. He's still pouring the coal to it, man. I bet if you look at the last lap time, it is probably consistent with what he's been doing over the last 5 or 10 laps.
Well, it was over 2 seconds more than Simonson. But I'm saying, for Simonson, all he can hope for is that Scheffer gets a little complacent and makes one mistake, let him back into it.
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, I guess it was probably 2 years ago at a majors race that I ran here. We had 2 cars in my class come together on the very last lap. Yeah. And if I wasn't driving such a pickup car, which actually was Jeff Janoska's CRX,
was driving with you, and Martin Burke was driving as well.
Absolutely. And
all 3 of us.
And if I had, over the course of that race, been able to turn maybe a half a second faster lap times, I would have been able to make up 3 positions on the last lap. And it just simply, I came home right behind the cars that spun out and were at a dead stop on the track for about 15 seconds.
Well,
yeah, exactly. But again,
it was a good race, by the way.
It was a wonderful race.
Yeah.
But that's also why you push till the very end.
Well, we've got 2 laps to go, so it is getting down to the end. The lead for Owen Scheffer right now is 8.5 seconds, another 12 back to Kevin Fryer. And then Chris Collins now is starting to wake up. He's only a half a second behind Fryer. He could get that podium position, but he's got 1 to do it because the 1 to go board has just been shown to our leader, Owen Scheffer.
Yeah, I'm taking a look now in our Spec Racer Ford race, probably Spec RX-7 race. 4th place in Spec RX-7, Ben Seelig and John Maslin having a heck of a battle. John Maslin, we're talking about racing to the very end, only 0.4 of a second back from Ben Seelig. When they came down the front straight, they were side by side, Mike, and so they're not giving up the fight until the end of the race. And this is for 4th place in class.
All right, final call to the grid for Group 8, Spec Racer Ford, Spec Racer Ford 3. This is your last call to the grid.
Come in.
All right, so we've got 1 more lap plus about another half a lap to go in this race. And Owen Scheffer should be coming around turn 10 here any moment. we see Mr. Sheffer coming down the
Yes,
road
we do.
now. And there he is. Owen Sheffer takes the checkered flag. He is your overall winner here this afternoon. And now coming out of 10 is Brent Simonson, just kind of cruising down. He don't have to worry about any position. But wait a minute. Here we go. Collins and Fryer. Collins is trying to make a run, pulls to the inside, but he is too far back. Won't be able to catch him. Fryer third, Collins fourth.
All right, real quick, let's make an announcement here. Would Chris Ettridge, the driver of the number 70 ITA Miata, he just